From the Omaha room here at Phoenix Municipal Stadium, it's time for Dugout Chatter with Arizona State baseball coach Willie Bloomquist. I'm your host, Braiden Bell, and not at Blanco, Cocina, and Cantina today. As we said, we're in the Omaha room here at Muni, and a little bit of a quieter crowd than what we're used to, but also we get air conditioning today, Coach. So I suppose that's a good thing. It's finally hot in the Valley.
Yeah, that's a big thing. We got the AC going, but the main reason we're not at Blanco is because of all the graduation going on. So I think that's something to commend our, not only our players, but the students and the student athletes across the Arizona State that it's a big weekend, a big week for a lot of people that are graduating, and we had 7 of our guys do that yesterday and do the ceremony, which was pretty special time. So it's for a good reason that we're not at Blanco today.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, and I don't know if you saw this, but at the convocation yesterday was Harrison Ford giving the commencement speech. So it's pretty cool over at Mountain America Stadium as well. Let's dive into the week that was for Sun Devil baseball. Of course, Oklahoma State in town for senior weekend festivities. A really tough 3-game set where offense was the storyline. We kind of knew it would be that way with Oklahoma State and the way their roster is put together, and same with us on our side as well. You were able to salvage Sunday's game. Friday slipped away. Saturday they just slugged the ball really well, hitting 7 home runs. But I guess ultimately just your takeaways from that series against Oklahoma State.
Well, obviously we know they're very high caliber program and a good team coming in here that's been hot. They've gotten healthy as of late. They came in swinging hot bats. We knew they were going to be tough. Friday night, what can you say about that game? There was 2 heavyweights going at it on the mound, with Carlon and Lund, their guy, and both of those guys threw the ball exceptionally well. We took advantage of some opportunities, some misplayed opportunities that they had on fly balls that Muni posed a little bit of a problem for them. But, end of the day, we came up with some big hits late there to get a nice lead going into the 9th. Just one of those crazy 9th innings that got away from us a little bit. And, looking back, there was just some really bizarre plays, in that inning. It wasn't that our guys made the wrong decisions in those plays. It's just they didn't execute the accuracy of the throw or didn't catch the ball and make the tag on a couple of those. So, you're this close from winning that series, against a very good team. Saturday was what it was. They outslugged us on Saturday, but Sunday we came back and returned the favor on Sunday for the most part. So it boiled down to that Friday game, and we were this close to winning that game, and obviously we didn't. And but we're close. We're close to winning that series as well. And although we didn't, we come away with 1 win. Right now at this time of year, you're trying to stack wins. You're trying to get prepared for and just play the best baseball possible here at the end of the year.
There are so many parts of specifically that Friday game. I think we could probably take the entire first segment talking about it, but you mentioned those plays defensively. They were a little bit tweeners as well, even for Rolig on that ball where he decided to throw home. It would have been a tough throw to first. Not many people were talking about that, but it would have been a really tough play to even get that out at first base. I did want to ask you, though, about Cole and what might be his final outing as a Sun Devil. Who knows, of course, as those decisions are made. But, 7 innings, 11 Ks, just 3 earned runs, 150 pitches. And maybe the biggest emotion we've seen from Cole, his strikeout at the very end of that outing as he pulled down that final strikeout against Colin Ritchie, their best player and one of the best hitters in the conference. It was awesome. I loved when you went out there, you talked to him. The ESPN2 broadcast is talking about it, and I think we're going to grab him. And I could tell you were wanting to see what Cole had to say to you. What did Cole say in that moment?
He gave me a pretty good response that kind of buckled me. I said, "How you feeling?" And he said, "You wouldn't take me out if this was Omaha, so don't take me out now." I said, "Okay, sounds good." And I just said, "How are you feeling?" He goes, "I feel great." And I said, "Okay, if you're feeling good, we'll roll with you and let you go." I said, "Empty the tank, don't hold anything back, let's go." And he did. And, that was he dug deep for us and had an outstanding outing. And I was just as fired up as he was after that strikeout of Colin Ritchie, because I'm like, man, here we go, mano a mano. They're going after each other. Cole's at the end of his rope, but dug deep and really made some good pitches to arguably one of the best hitters in not only the conference but in the country as well.
It was alpha versus alpha, like you said. Like, it was everything you could have wanted in a spot like that. I'm curious, rounding into now postseason play, and you're familiar with the critics of Cole or the people that maybe were naysayers of, can he be a starter? Would he wear down over the course of the year? we've seen just the opposite. We've seen some of his best stuff. The velocity is obviously still trending upwards at this point of the year. So now that we start to get to money-making time, right, you get into the conference tournament, one more regular season weekend, and then, NCAA tournament play. How good does it feel to have that top dog, one of the best arms in the country, on your side?
Well, I mean, he's been outstanding and gotten better and better. And, that game on Friday, it started off like, man, it was going to be a little shaky. He was having a hard time finding the zone, was walking guys uncharacteristically of him. And, we were at that point kind of hoping to get through 4 or maybe 5 innings with him. And then I think it was the 5th inning, he had a real efficient 9 or 10 pitch inning and kind of started clicking and finding his rhythm and that little swag on the mound that he has. And, then, like I said, the last inning was just all guts, and that's special to see, when a kid can dig down deeper. And in this stage of the year where guys are built up, they're strong, 100 pitches is kind of the norm at this point to stretch them a little further in a big game like that. We kind of needed to. But this is the time of year where it's nice to have that guy who, you can just about bank on who's going to give you a good start and give your team a chance to win.
Yeah, it was awesome to see, and obviously Cole's going to factor into the rest of the season as well. Joined here by ASU baseball coach Willie Bloomquist. I wanted to ask you about one offensive star from the weekend that popped off and had, a Hairston-esque weekend, if you will, and that's Dominic Smaldino. 5 homers in the series, both coming in the last 2 games of that series. 3 on Mother's Day. I'm sure you saw his mom had texted him asking for 1 home run for Mother's Day. He provided 3. Drove in 8 in that game as well. He seems to finally, be rounding into form with the power. We've seen the line drive rate at a really good clip. The average has been there all year long, but starting to play some of his best ball at the right time of the year.
Yeah, and we're going to need him too. We're going to need another bat to step up or 2. And he's been one of those guys that's getting hot as of late. And, man, it's nice to see. The kid has a light tower power, has been pretty consistent, like you said, with the average most of the year. But now that the power's starting to come here late at the right time, we're going to need some of that more thump in the lineup. And it just gives them one more guy to think about. You got Harry, you got New, you got Toigo. You got him swinging the bat. You got Roley, Matt Polk, the way he's been swinging. It just gives you another power threat that they got to pitch around.
I wanted to ask you, obviously our lineup as it is, as you just said, there's so many different weapons. Oklahoma State seemed like a pretty good practice run, if you will, for regional, just with the way their roster's constructed. Obviously they're power reliant a bit more than a lot of teams we'll probably see come regional time, but just having to put together a plan as far as the pitching staff goes, or having to react to different things, right? So many things can happen in a 3-game set, and they'll be the same way in a regional, of course. What are some of those things you could take from that series and maybe store in the back of your mind come a couple of weeks for Big 12 tournament play, and also obviously for an eventual regional as well?
Well, I think the biggest things there are they're an offensive lineup that's very powerful and can change the game with one swing of the bat, and kind of like I told our guys, it's a lot like looking in the mirror. They're a lineup that's similar to ours. They do punch out a lot more than we do, because they really don't change much of their approach from what I saw with 2 strikes. They're going to get it, and they're trying to put the ball in the seats, and they do a very good job at that. And it's if you make mistakes, you're going to get punished and you're going to get hurt, and it really forces you from a coaching standpoint or a managerial standpoint to really dig deep and navigate your thought process and how you're going to face who and which matchups you're going to face, because if you make the wrong one, you're going to get burned, and sure, the game's going to change on one swing of the bat. So they really challenge you from that standpoint, and I think it's one of those lineups that you're going to have to navigate guys like that and be able to execute your pitches.
I am curious, shifting the focus over as we're chatting here with Willie Bloomquist to the senior class, and you had mentioned graduation at the top of the show. It's an interesting time nowadays to be a head coach in college athletics, not just baseball, because you're going to have so many people that are having their senior day that maybe have only been here for a year. But in the case of this year's class, 10 seniors in all, you've got New, of course, who's been here for 4. Sean Fitzpatrick's been here for a while now as well. And then you had the guys like a Polkey, a Dean Toigo as well. Obviously, there are others as well that I'm not thinking of off the top of my head. A Cole Klecker, I guess, another good name to mention. But I guess when you look back at this senior class in this weekend's festivities, what are some of those things that you're going to take with you moving forward?
Well, just my biggest thing is the relationships that you built, that I built with these guys, and whether it be for 1 year, like you mentioned, or for 4 years or for 5 years. It's just, it's bittersweet, because these guys are, for the most part, going to be moving on, whether that's in baseball or it's in the real world. And, you remember back to the first time you recruited these guys, or the first time you saw them when they were in high school, and it's like, man, that 4 years went really, really fast. A guy like New Contradas, I still remember the day that we said we want that kid when he trucked over a shortstop in high school, and we're like, heck yeah, go get that kid. I like him. It's those type of things that, like, man, now he's a young man. He's physical. He's going to be, for all intents and purposes, moving on to the next level after this year. And you look back at the memories that you had and the great games that they've had over the years for you, and the effort level that those kids have put in for the program. And you're just grateful that hopefully you became part of their life as much as they're a part of mine. And that's the part that makes coaching a lot of fun, is what I'm learning.
Yeah, that, like you said, that seems like one of those things that it's going to be different every year with every single senior class, but one thing remains the same is you can kind of reflect in a moment to what they meant to the program. Obviously, a lot of work still to come, including a series against Houston. We'll talk about that and more in the last segment with Coach Bloomquist, but when we come back, got a couple special guests here on Dugout Chatter. Back here on Dugout Chatter, time for our player segments of today's program. We're from the Omaha room here inside of Phoenix Muni. Braiden Bell joined alongside our first guest, our left fielder for the Sun Devils. Really can play every outfield position, but has been out there and left a bunch, and he's been getting the job done for ASU. Sam Meyers, a transfer from TCU, a native Texan as well. Sam, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So let's talk about this weekend that was obviously playing Oklahoma State, and there were fireworks all weekend long. Both teams can rake. Obviously, there were some crazy things that happened. You guys ended up winning that Sunday game to salvage things. But when you're playing in a series like that, and even just being a part of it, what's it like knowing that both offenses at any given point can put up a 5-spot, a 6-spot, whatever it is?
Yeah, you really kind of have to keep it at a mellow pace, because you can't get too high or too low, because the game just goes up and down like that. You can't let it get the best of you at any certain moment, and just keep answering back and keep pushing the whole time.
You had 3 hits in that game on Saturday, 3 singles. I love watching you play, man, because of the speed. And that's a part of baseball that obviously you can't teach speed. It's also tough to defend against.
Yeah.
For you, knowing that that's part of your game in such a big way, you can pick up bunt singles pretty regularly.
Yeah.
How do you try to deploy that weapon that you have and use it to your edge?
Yeah, I think just kind of letting the game come to me, not trying to do too much at any given moment, but kind of just taking what the defense gives you in that certain scenario. I love to take advantage of bunt hits if it presents itself, but overall just trying to play my game and help the team win.
We mentioned you're an outfielder, and there have been some awesome defensive catches this year for your ball club. 2 that come off the top of my head. Toigo's somersault over the wall in right field. Landon robbed that home run, had another great diving catch in left center earlier in the season. If you had to pick one, and it doesn't have to be one of those 3 that I named, what's the best play in the outfield this year?
I want to go with Landon's diving catch in left center field. I thought that was legit, but also the one he caught at the wall this weekend, that would have turned into a 9-6 game if that was a home run. So I think it was pretty awesome that he got up and caught that ball at the wall.
And I can't remember that one in left center. Were you, or was it Polky?
No, it was Polky out there. I watched it from the dugout, and I think it made it look even better from over there. It was legit.
It looked like they were going to kill each other.
Exactly.
It looked like they were going to run right into
I held
each
my
other.
breath for a second, but he ended up making the play. It was awesome.
It was an awesome catch.
Yeah.
Coming over from TCU, much like Cole Klecker, of course, the Horned Frogs to the Sun Devils. I'm always curious about this, playing your former team. You had an interesting reintroduction to TCU. Right. The fly ball, you come into the game as a replacement, I believe, in that game. Fly ball, injury situation, you get a triple out of it. Obviously, then they make a great play at the plate to clinch the game where you were trying to get home. But I guess just in all, what was it like going up against your former team, and what was a crazy series?
Yeah, it was a little bit weird. It's kind of have to take a deep breath and slow everything down because it can get sped up a little bit. But once I did that, I felt comfortable. It felt like a normal baseball game. But for sure, it could feel a little weird at the start.
I guess finding yourself to Arizona State and within this program, a program as we're sitting here in the Omaha room that clearly has history that not many programs in the country have, developing into a player here in this program, and I know Coach Bloomquist has talked about you guys have everything it takes to make a run over this next month. It's just about trying to find it in every single area, and then that's kind of eluded you guys so far this year. What makes you believe that you guys still can't find that best baseball that you haven't quite found this year?
Yeah, I think he's exactly right, Coach Bloomquist, in saying that we haven't played our best baseball yet. And getting hot right now and getting on a run is really going to help us out. But I think just the depth and the level of competition we have every day at practice, just that heightens the success of our team. I think we have the depth and the talent and the grit to just make a run, get after it.
Chatting here with Sam Meyers, ASU outfielder. The first thing I ever heard about you, I was talking to Willie about you and all the new transfers coming in, and he said he's not going to make excuses and he's going to put in the work. And I thought that was a really great compliment to your game, especially nowadays with how you see college sports, kind of bloom up, I guess I should say. Where did those attributes come from in terms of your work ethic and not making any excuses, just going out there and trying to work?
Yeah, I think it's growing up playing sports and just how I was raised from my parents, and just being around the good competition that I was talking about since I was a young kid. Being around other good players just gives you that work ethic like you're talking about, and the competition every day to just be better than the guy next to you and have the people around you make you a better person and a player as well.
This kind of goes off of that, but everyone wants to play every single day, and we don't need to lie and make excuses that it's okay. Obviously, I'm sure you're disappointed when you're not in the lineup every single day, but how do you kind of navigate that, being ready when your number is called, which you've done a great job of, and also when you're maybe not out there, still being a good teammate and supporting however you may be able to?
Yeah, I think you just have to take a step back and think about the team and what's going to help the team win at the end of the day. And so when my number's called, or when Polky's number's called, or when Kai's number's called, we all got to be at our best, right, to help the team win. And I think, this team has done a really good job of that, of buying in and doing what it takes to win the game at the end of the day. And so I think if we stick with that, that's what's going to help us make this run.
Chatting here with Sam Meyers, Sun Devil outfielder. Sam, I got to ask you a question away from baseball. And I heard you're a little bit of a golfer, which I said we could take this entire segment and talk about golf the entire time. I'd be okay with that. You bat left-handed, you swing a golf club right-handed. Okay.
Right.
I'm confused.
Yeah.
Take me through that.
So left-handed golf swing was just absolutely terrible. So I was like, all right, I'm going to play right-handed, but I'd still do putt left-handed.
Oh, come on. Wait,
Because
so
I
you
have
have to
no
carry
feel with the putter right-handed.
So you have to carry a different putter.
Yeah, so carry a left-handed putter and swing all the clubs to get onto the green right-handed. But no, since moving out here to Arizona, it's been nice being able to play some of the courses around here with my teammates, and it's always a great time.
I'm curious. I think it was something that was talked about a lot maybe a decade ago. You don't hear it as much now, but as a young player, be like, you can't play golf and baseball. Right. It's going to mess up your swing.
Yeah.
Do you believe in that at all? Clearly, you must not.
I don't think so. But obviously, me swinging the golf club right-handed can't surely not affect my left-handed swing. But even with the guys that play it same-sided, I think you could find ways that it might help you sometimes too, I think. So.
A couple more for you, Sam, before we let you go. I think just this time of year, right, people don't understand the grind of a college baseball season. You might look at professional baseball and say, well, these guys are only playing 56, 54 games, whatever it may be. You guys are grinded just as much as anyone. Mm-hmm. And now you're to that point of the year where your body might not feel great, but you are at the crescendo, right? Yeah. You are where you've been looking forward to since January when you guys started working out. How do you try to trick the body into being like, here we go, we got to play our best, even though you might not be feeling the best? Yeah,
you're talking about the 56-game season. I think it is shorter than the major leaguers play, but all of our games mean a ton. So I think that's part of it, but also just the strength and conditioning that we do to lead up to this, keeping your body in shape throughout the season and getting that rest whenever you need to is really what is going to keep us going here at the end.
A random one I just had to ask you about was Friday night against Oklahoma State. We just talked about it with Willie in the first segment. Cole Carlon's performance. Yeah. When he gets into a zone, he kind of starts to shimmy shake a little on the mound, like he's got that swag, right?
Does, yeah.
How much fun is it as a defender when you've got a pitcher like a Carlon, like a Linder when he's working well, like a Finn Edwards, who we're going to talk to in a moment, who, they just are working. They're getting the ball, they're attacking hitters, they're throwing strikes. What's it like to play behind someone like that?
It's awesome. I think you could see Carlon digging deep there at the end, and it was super special to see him strike out one of their better hitters to finish his outing. But no, watching some of our guys all year has been special, and something like that performance on Friday night will really get to you, and you feel great for him after that.
We've got the Carlon kind of shuffle. We've got obviously Brody Briggs doing what he does after he takes a ball. We got to think of something for you, man.
I know.
I don't know what it is. We got to think of something for Sam Meyers so he can show off his swag as well. But I get the sense you're kind of a quieter player, if you will. But just how much do you love the game? Like, you got to love it if you're playing it at this level, or else it's probably going to wear you out pretty quick.
Yeah, it's super fun, especially playing here in front of these fans. They've been showing up this year. It just makes it so much better to play here at Muni.
Sam Edwards, our guest here on Dugout Chatter. He's going to be a very important part of this Sun Devil outfield from here on out. It is crowded out there, but certainly his speed, his versatility will play a factor. Thanks a lot for joining us, man.
Yes, thank you.
When we come back, Finn Edwards will join us on Dugout Chatter. Back here on Dugout Chatter, Braiden Bell joined by our second guest now of the program. It's Finn Edwards, the hard-throwing right-hander, 6'7". Gotta say 6'7", not 6'7" anymore.
Correct.
Kids love it too much. Sophomore from Bend, Oregon, joining us on the program. Finn, how are you, man?
Fantastic. Yeah, having a good time.
Well, thanks for joining us.
Of course.
I'm curious right away. Your last outing, we saw your highest velocity. Obviously, there was a lot of talk about at this point of the year, right? As we just talked about with Sam, you're getting through the dog days at this point and rounding into postseason form, but it seems like you're still feeling good out there. And hitting 100.
I mean, I feel like out of the bullpen it can be tough. Like you don't really know when you're going to throw and stuff. But I think kind of finding a good routine, figuring out what works for my body and stuff, and definitely, being a sophomore, I've kind of been through it for a year. I was a bullpen guy last year, and so sort of have found kind of what my body needs and kind of just stick to that. And I feel like, that gives me the best chance to go out whenever my name's called and perform at the highest level I can.
Obviously, as a bullpen guy, everyone has a different approach, right, and how to stay ready. We were talking with Derek Schaefer a few weeks ago, and he said, I have to tell myself every single day I'm going to pitch. What is it like for you? You mentioned that routine.
Yeah.
How do you stay ready?
I think a little bit of that idea of like, I'm going to pitch every day. It's sort of kind of like I wake up and if it's a game day, it's sort of like, I have a routine of getting to the field early and kind of getting like a little bit of prep work done in the weight room and staying hydrated is a big thing. I definitely feel like, if you got a lot of water in your body, it feels like everything moves well and you're hydrated. And so, definitely kind of you approach every game day as a day, like I'm going to throw today. And then, when you don't throw, it's sort of just an extra day of rest essentially that you can tack on. And then, you just keeps yourself ready to go for the next day.
You have something that pretty much everyone, athlete or not, probably is jealous of, your height. 6'7", as we said. But as a pitcher, it's especially a big help, right?
Yeah.
You think of some of the great pitchers of all time. First one that comes to mind is familiar name to this area, Randy Johnson, the big unit. And he would stride way out there, and it's obviously an advantage.
Totally.
For you, though, as a bigger guy, you've got a really good-looking slider to complement that hard-throwing fastball of yours. How do you try to use that height? We asked Sam about his speed, but in terms of you and your height and stepping through.
For me, I guess mostly it's an extension thing. I don't think I have like the highest release height, like a Buxton sort of, if you will, but my release or my extension rather, how far I get out when I release the ball is close to 7 feet most of the time. And so I think, that kind of is where the height comes in, having the long arms and just being able to get out there definitely. And, it's less time for the hitter to react, I guess, and kind of creates a little more deception for a hitter. So I think that definitely helps. And then, being able to work in with, having multiple pitches nowadays is really helpful too.
In terms of that slider, because I wanted to ask you, like you said, you've got to have, it seems like nowadays, at least probably 3 pitches in order to translate to that next level. You throw a changeup as well, of course, but it's that slider that's really impressive. Where did you, everyone's got their own little variation of it.
Yeah.
Where did you learn your grip of it? I know we're going to get to maybe being still relatively new to pitching. We'll touch on that in a moment, but your slider grip, what is it about the grip of the baseball that you really like?
For me, it's kind of just honestly don't even remember where like I sort of found it from. It just kind of happened. I think slowly making tweaks here and there, but it's a comfort thing. Like it's a grip where from my fastball I can get to the slider really easy, and it's just something like when like I just throw it and I feel like I can give the same intent as a fastball. I don't feel like I have to really mechanically or like have a different mental cue. I feel like I can just go heater, and then a slider is pretty much the same thing coming off of that. So I think just being comfortable with it is kind of where I've found a good feel with it and been able to really use it a lot.
And that's something that, maybe non-baseball players wouldn't understand, but that's the key, right, is you got to tunnel pitches.
Yeah.
You got to make them look like they're the same. And obviously when you're throwing darts in there at 99, 100 miles an hour and then trying to play the slider off of that, is that something that you're conscious of often, just trying to make that release point look similar? I know that's maybe a little bit in the weeds, but it's an important attribute.
I mean, I don't really think about it much. I mean, I feel like for the most part, if you kind of just go compete in and around the zone for the most part, you're generally going to find some success, whether it's striking people out or, balls in play. But I feel like if you, that's kind of a bullpen thing. I feel like if in a game, you're really like focused on like, oh, I need to get this tunneled perfectly and stuff like, you get too nitty gritty, and I think you kind of get yourself caught up. I've definitely had, I've dealt with that before. So I think sort of just kind of letting everything go in the game and just giving it everything and just competing.
Here with Finn Edwards, the tall throwing right-hander, I should say, for the Sun Devils out of the bullpen. I love asking relievers this question, so I've asked a few of you guys this throughout the year, but I'm going to ask you as well. That run-in from the bullpen, whether you're at home or on the road, I cannot imagine the juice you've got flowing through your veins, man, the intensity, the just the feeling you've got.
Yeah.
When you're doing that, let's say it's a night game, the lights are, the light show's going on here at Muni. They do a great job with that. Try to describe that emotion.
It's tough. I mean, it's I've never experienced anything like it before. Like it's every single time it feels the same. It never dulls down. Like it's I guess it's just kind of like everything you work towards every week or every day, and then it's like you get that opportunity, and so do you. Just like you kind of lose feeling of like everything. Like you don't really feel your fingers and your arms and stuff. It's sort of just like all of a sudden you're in the game, and like I feel like also just you're so focused that you're not really paying attention to everything else going on around you, and so kind of all of a sudden it's like, oh, like I'm pitching, like here we go, let's do this thing. But yeah, it's special. Like it's fun. It's definitely a cool part about being a reliever. Yeah, that's
where you have to kind of just fall back on your training, right?
Yep,
because if you're in the moment and things are moving like that, you can't really think. You're just performing. Something I wanted to ask you about as well that dovetails off this nicely is moving from the JUCO ranks, Iowa Western Community College, to Arizona State, and obviously that's something we see a lot of throughout college sports, specifically in baseball. Though we see it all the time, but it could not be any different, I'm sure, in terms of facilities and traveling and stuff like that. So couple things on that. Like ASU is obviously a blue blood program. You're getting the best of the best here. You're playing in front of big crowds, as we've talked about. All of those things obviously different. But what are some of those other differences between the JUCO level and the D1 level where you're like, okay, this is big time?
I would say when I think back to last year and this year, the biggest thing is the travel. For sure, we never flew anywhere. I mean, I think the farthest we went, we had games down in Texas, and we bussed all the way down and back, and then after the games, on travel days, we shower, you go to the plane and stuff. Like it was games over, you get on the bus, you go home. No shower, no nothing. So that the bus stinks, and you got a whole team of guys sweating on there and stuff. So I think that's a big thing that I notice is different. I mean, the facilities, and then a big thing I think is the fans. Like that was something you pretty much everything kind of felt like a scrimmage almost. If you there's maybe 20 people in the stands and it's everybody's family. Nobody is a fan of a community college going out to watch the games really much. So then you come here and I don't, whatever our average attendance was or whatever, 3,000, 3,500, whatever, like that was crazy. I've never experienced anything like that before. So that's a big difference. It's kind of just like actually having an atmosphere to play in front of. And I think that's a really cool thing. I love that. It's really cool.
Chatting here with Finn Edwards, you mentioned the atmosphere in playing in front of big crowds. You're going to have the chance to do that, obviously, for the next couple of weeks as well, past the Big 12 tournament and into a regional. Wherever you guys are, it's going to be packed out. It's going to be a big crowd, whether it's in the South, whether it's in the Midwest, whatever it may be, West Coast. I'm curious, trying to pitch around a big crowd. I know some guys love it.
Yeah.
Everyone against me, that kind of mentality. Other people might not embrace it as much. Where are you in terms of a hostile environment?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have a problem with it. I mean, even in high school, like my parents would always be yelling at me, and like my mom always likes to mess around with me and, like say funny stuff. And then after the game, she's like, oh, did you hear what I was saying? And I was like, to be honest, no, I didn't hear a thing. And even like, the dugouts and stuff, like I feel like I have a pretty good level of focus. We're kind of just tunnel vision, and like everything else is just white noise, if you will. So, I mean, it'll definitely be different. There's probably going to be a lot of people, but I mean, even when we went to Globe Life, like, I would consider that a hostile environment. We didn't really have many fans there. Everybody we were playing was closer than we were. So, and, I didn't really notice anything with that. So, yeah, I feel like, I do a pretty good job of kind of just keeping it even keeled and not letting it get to me too much.
Yeah, that's probably the right strategy, I would say, not letting it impact you. You mentioned it, just a sophomore, and obviously there's some more growth to be done, as any second-year player would address. But I'm curious, being around a very veteran group this year, whether it's the pitching staff, whether it's the lineup, it's an experienced group, a lot of seniors. What are some of those guys in terms of maybe, leaders in this group, older guys that you've kind of looked up to and maybe taken some things from this year? Yeah,
it's cool. I mean, I didn't, never really experienced that because community college, it's freshmen, sophomores, so, it's you don't really have any older guys. It's cool. I mean, definitely sort of came in and I feel like a younger guy for sure. And then, there's definitely, you got the dudes that are, fifth year and they've been around. And so there's definitely, you kind of just, I guess you just kind of learn little things here and there. I mean, there's nothing really too crazy, I don't think. Cause,
Sure.
I mean, I've been to college, I guess, now, and been a part of kind of different levels. But yeah, it's I think it just creates a cool environment that there's guys at every stage of it, and going through different parts of their career. But yeah, it's cool to be part of.
I'm curious, playing for someone who went to school where he's now coaching. It's pretty rare. It's not completely unheard of, but you can tell. We obviously have him every week on this show, but even when he just talks to the media after games, like Willie Bloomquist loves Arizona State. Yeah. Was that something you noticed in the recruiting process?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I feel like pretty quickly talking to the guy, you realize, like, he doesn't just love Arizona State. It kind of just runs through his blood. Sure. You know what I mean? Like, that's just it. Since he was my age, ASU has sort of been who he is, which is, I think that's really special. And so, there's a I guess a little extra level of like care and consideration, I feel like, that goes towards, the work that he does and puts forth for all of us. So yeah, it's something I think it stands out really easily, but I think it's a really good thing to have stand out.
I'm curious, Finn, rounding again into this golden part of the season, if you will. The pitching staff of the way it lines up is pretty interesting because you obviously have Cole as that Friday night guy. Kleck's been that Sunday guy all year. Saturday spot's been a little up for grabs, so you have pretty much everyone else in an open spot, ready to pitch whenever needed. Do you think that could actually help you guys come a regional? Because their spots, obviously, in a regional is super, where guys are going to get it thrown into wild situations. Yeah. Who knows what's going to happen? Seems like you guys are pretty flexible in terms of the staff.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. It's really cool. I mean, it's like you said, we really only have 2 jobs locked down. I mean, I guess you say Shafe with the closing spot, he's got that taken care of. There's a lot of confidence when he comes in those kind of games. But yeah, I mean, I think it is a good thing because, it makes everybody ready to go at all times, and I think that's a positive. It just keeps everybody on your toes, and kind of you can't really just sit back and just wait for your turn. It's sort of just like, okay, I gotta be ready every day for whoever it may be, and I think that's a good thing. I think it definitely will have dividends when we get into later in the postseason. There's a lot of stuff that moves around, and you see those guys that gotta bounce back day in, day out. So I think, having kind of a little bit of practice with that throughout the year for these guys is definitely a good thing.
Arizona State, very familiar with your home state of Oregon, obviously with OSU and the U of O. Growing up in Bend, were you a duck or a beaver?
Yeah, I mean, I honestly still don't know. I mean,
you're a Sun Devil now.
Yeah. I never really had a huge favorite. Like we didn't really go to football, baseball games that much. I've been to a couple of each team, and I think it's never really had a favorite.
Okay, so I was going to kind of parlay that off because obviously Oregon State has been known as the baseball school in that state. Something unusual that I just found out about you, if I can get through my question, is you're still relatively new to pitching. Fans are going to go out there and watch. You've been a reliable arm out of this bullpen. Obviously, you went the community college route. Take us through, when did you actually start pitching competitively, and how good do you think you could eventually become?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't really start pitching until later into high school. Like freshman, sophomore year of high school, I was pretty much like third base, first base, kind of rotate between those. I think my junior year I had like 15 innings maybe, just pitched a little bit, but it was never something that I thought was like super serious. And then that summer I played for a different summer team, and I only pitched. I didn't hit for the first time, so I was different, and kind of realized like, okay, maybe there's something there, something to tap into. And then I got hurt my senior year, so I didn't really get to throw it all then, but I realized, that's definitely the direction I want to go. And then it was that summer, I was like, okay, college, this is a real opportunity here. And so, I kind of tapped into that for the first time and went the community college route and, played a bunch and definitely got a lot better and, kind of learned how to pitch, I guess, for the first time. I didn't really have a pitching coach in high school or anything like that. So it's kind of just raw material, I guess, if you will. And then, got a little bit hands-on in community college, and then certainly here with, Accardo and all them. Definitely, true coaching, and that's been really huge for me. I mean, came in here pretty much fastball only guy. I think, probably threw it 85% of the time community college last year, and then, I don't really know what the splits this year are, but I have a slider that I have a lot of confidence in, and then the changeup is slowly developing, feeling, getting there. So hopefully that's something, continue to develop and work on. But yeah, it's definitely been I would say an odd sort of program or path to how I've became a pitcher.
It's unique, but clearly it's been the right decision. Becoming a PO, which for baseball fans that don't know, pitcher only. Who's the best hitting pitcher on this roster? Would you still say yourself?
No,
okay.
Definitely not.
Who can really rake if we win a pitcher's BP?
That's a good question because we've never really swung it much. I would say if I had to give two votes out there, I would go Alex Overbay.
Yep.
He
runs in the family.
Yeah, runs in the family, and he did two-way a bit. And then apparently, I've never seen it, but apparently Cole Carlon can hit pretty well. So I'll give him some kudos for that. Other than that, to be honest, I really don't know.
We had Cole on, and he said the same thing. He said, "I'm a pretty good hitter." I'd like to see the goggles in there for the left side.
Yeah.
We see Carlon swinging it a little bit, but anyways, awesome stuff, Ben. I appreciate you hopping on here, and it's been really fun to watch you, man, in year number 1 here at ASU, and important baseball to come. Good luck.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
When we come back, we'll wrap things up with Willie Bloomquist here on Dugout Chatter. Back here on Dugout Chatter from the Omaha Room at Phoenix Municipal Stadium, Braiden Bell rejoined by ASU head coach Willie Bloomquist. And Coach, let's talk about what's to come. It's the final regular season weekend of the year, Thursday through Saturday at Houston. And obviously some fans might look at the standings and be like, okay, Houston, bottom of the standings, probably not going to make the conference tournament. They aren't going to make the conference tournament. Should be easy. It's not the case in the Big 12. Every weekend is tough. It's a road series in itself, and a short week at that, Thursday through Saturday. So I know it's going to be a challenge to go out to Houston and try to pick up a win, but what are some of the keys going into that weekend series?
Well, I think the first thing is the most dangerous team is the team with nothing to lose.
Sure.
And they don't have anything to lose. But then when you watch them on video, they're and look at their games that they played and who they played against, they've played everybody extremely tough. A lot of their losses are 1-run, 2-run losses that are against very high quality good teams. The TCUs, the Kansas, they've beaten Kansas. West Virginia's, all the teams that we've tooth and nailed with, they've done the same thing. They've just come off the losing side of it barely. So, and watching video, they're extremely talented. They have some very good arms. They got some mid-90 mile an hour arms on that team, and they got some kids that can swing it. So it's just another weekend in the Big 12 here that we got to prepare for and expect to play well. Like, we have to play well if we're going to go down there and beat them. So not a team we're taking lightly by any means. Standings, you throw them out the window. This is that time of year where you got to dig deep and play your best baseball, hopefully. And hopefully our guys are up for that challenge because they're going to need to if we want to go down there and be successful.
Yeah, no doubt. It's a Houston team is coming off a weekend series win in Tucson against Arizona, so they're feeling a little bit of momentum as well riding into that series. Thursday to Saturday, like we said, so obviously we've experienced that a few times through conference play. Pitching-wise, what's the rotation going to be looking like Thursday and Friday?
Well, I mean, it's tricky as always, right? You're trying to figure this thing out, and it's all hands on deck. We're looking at still wanting to not want to move Carlon off Friday. I just think that he's in too much of a rhythm and routine, and I don't want to change that on him right now. So we'll leave him on Friday. We have Alba and Klecker available Saturday. Who do we throw Thursday? It's between Colby Guy and T-Pen right now. We're still kind of deciding, but either way, both of those guys are going to pitch and try to give us length there in that first game on Thursday, see where that gets us, and then we go from there. But, bottom line, again, that it depending on how the weekend goes, we can set things up for the conference tournament, and, all those things are factored into it. But, for us, the main goal is we got to win Thursday. How do we win game one and then go from there?
I think you had a quote after one of the games against Oklahoma State that it's playoff time, right? It's tournament time. The urgency's turned up to 10 for every team in the country, not just here, but obviously where we're at, trying to not only solidify seedings for the Big 12 tournament and also just improve seed lines for the NCAA tournament, but you just want to be playing the right kind of baseball at the right time more than anything. You take away all that other stuff. Where do you think you guys are at in terms of finding that rhythm, right, and trying to peak at the right time, something you hear all the time in sports?
Well, I think, when you talk about all the standings and all that stuff, to me that's external fluff. It matters, of course, but you can't focus on that. You have to focus, like you said, on playing your best baseball, focus on the process of it. Try to turn over every stone and make sure that everything's covered, and that you are playing your best baseball this time of year, and everything else should take care of itself. We can start worrying about all the stuff we can't control and who's playing who over there, and if they win and then we win, then this happens. We can't get caught up in that. We just got to go play our game and let the chips fall where they may. But the main thing is the team that ultimately is going to win the last game of the year here in June is not necessarily the best team. It's a team that gets the hottest at the right time. And for us, the good news and the bad news is we haven't played our best baseball yet this year. And I think that we're close. I think we've hit on all facets at one point or another throughout the year. But we got to get consistent. And if we can come together at the right time and everybody fire on all cylinders, then, man, we become a very dangerous team, here late in the year and moving on. So that's my goal, is to get these guys on the same page, playing their best baseball here. And, again, like I said, at times throughout the year, one area has been at their peak, maybe the other one hasn't, and the next week the other's at their peak and the other's not. So if we can all come together at the right time, which we've shown we're capable of doing, this could be a fun run.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And Thursday through Saturday against Houston, of course, that is the end of the regular season. Chatting here with Willie Bloomquist, ASU baseball coach. I wanted to ask you about the back end of your bullpen. I know we already kind of covered the Oklahoma State series, so not to go back at that, but I found it interesting. I was listening to you after the game when you were talking to Tim and Max, and Schaaf, of course, the fan base, all that, they might see the final line and be like, what's happening? He threw the ball well on Friday. It was, like you said, some poor luck and some odd plays that really boosted up that final line. Had the chance to come back in on Sunday and get the last couple of outs of that game, even though it was a non-save situation in a game you guys were up by a lot entering that inning. But where are you at in terms of the level of trust and confidence in Derek Schaefer, a guy that obviously is going to be important in that run?
My confidence has never wavered on him. He's been a rock back there. He's been great. Again, you take a look at Friday and you kind of just go, okay. There was 2 or 3 really odd plays in that inning that unraveled on us a little bit there, and to me that's not necessarily something that's in his control. How he controls is how he throws the baseball, and he did a good job of that. And things aren't always going to bounce your way, but to have him bounce back and come out Sunday and finish that game off again, I have a ton of confidence in Schaaf and ultimately all the back end bullpen. So to me, that's going to be important as we go down the stretch here.
Another position that's going to be important is that third outfield spot, and I know we've talked so much about that this year. Obviously, had Sam on the show today, but Polke has been playing well. Kai McGarry hit his first career home run on Sunday, going the opposite way, and it seems like all 3 of those guys, however you put them in, everyone's kind of producing right now. It seems like that the at-bats are looking good regardless of who's kind of being that starter. How do you feel about that? I mean, I guess left field position, but that third outfielder along with Dean and Landon, of course.
It's been those guys have had to stay patient and ready all year long, which is I know from experience very challenging at times when you go out and get 3 hits and then you're not in the lineup the next day or even the rest of that weekend and have to wait until your next turn is available or whenever that is, and that's challenging. It's tough, right? And I understand that from my perspective and their perspective, but these 3 or 4 guys that continue to kind of play part in that role have done an outstanding job in it. Matt Polk, had taken over and kind of solidified himself as that guy we've been running out there, and he kind of had a little tweak of the hammy, the other day. Obviously I'm mixing Sam Meyers in there, and every time he's had his number called, he just goes out and gets hits and puts together great at bats. And then Kai McGarry's another guy that's been itching for playing time and could have very easily cashed in his chips and packed his stuff up and gone home, but he just continues to work hard every day and waits for his opportunities, and he's had the big pinch hit against BYU. He came in yesterday with a pinch hit home run. It's like another kid that just continues to grind. And part of that is a little bit by design. Part of that is just, hey, we got a lot of good players here. But I think in order to hopefully make a run at this thing, you're going to need depth. You're going to need different looks based on what type of team you're playing. And just a tribute to all 3 of those guys, just to continue to stay ready the way they've been and produce when they've been asked to produce. So no complaints. And I don't have a solidified guy that I'm going to go to, and at least I'm not going to be painted into a corner there because all 3 of them have done a really, really good job and have arguably earned the right to be out there. So we'll look at the matchups and which guys we think is going to be the best matchup for that particular day.
It's one of those things where depth can both be a blessing and a curse, right? I know this is the deepest team you've had since you've been here, and in the past maybe you have to roll with the same guy no matter what. This not so much the case this year, and someone good can't play every single day, right? That's just the way it is. A couple more for you, Coach, before we let you go. Obviously, we've talked a lot about the fan base, and I always, try to not make these questions sound redundant, but now that we're officially done with the home schedule, the largest average attendance in program history, and specifically at Muni, of course, 3,553 per game. Obviously, there were some bigger numbers than that, but considering where we are and the amount of things you can do entertainment-wise, sports or not, in the Valley, it says a lot about the activation, if you will, not to take Kenny's term, the activation of this program and this fan base. And obviously it's a big stepping stone you can build on in recruiting as well, I'm sure.
Yeah, and then that's factoring in midweek games
exactly.
too, right? So that's just the average attendance across all games, not to mention just the weekend games, which I'd like to see the number of just the weekend, average attendance as well. But it's a tribute to a lot of things. First and foremost, you got to thank the fans for continuing to come out. This year we had probably the most students to ever come out, and there was the huge student section on some of the nights out there that was awesome to see and listen to their banter over the poor third baseman that they were playing against. And so to have the students come out has been huge. To have the fans come out in general the way they have has been huge. I've said it before and I'll say it again, that's our best recruiting tool, is when you have an opportunity to play in front of big crowds on a nightly basis, whether it's midweek or on the weekend, and that gives our guys extra motivation. When they do come out to the yard and play and see a packed house, it's just a lot of fun for those guys to play in front of that. And I think I'll end with the fact that it's just been it's a fun environment to play in, and when you get that opportunity, and hopefully the fans enjoyed what they saw. Listen, I've been the first to say that we're not always going to be perfect. There's going to be some bumps and bruises. There's going to be some times where it's like, oof, that wasn't that good. But on the other hand, these kids are, 18 to 22 years old. They're out there playing the most meaningful baseball in the Valley. They're dedicating their time and their energy and their hours into this program, so they can hopefully entertain our fans. And I think for the most part, they've done an outstanding job of that. And hats off to our players for doing that, and hats off to the fans for coming out and supporting them.
Yeah, it's a two-sided thing, right? Fans aren't going to show up if the team's not fun to watch, and vice versa. So that's really special, and I think you're spot on with what you said there. As we said, Houston coming up Thursday through Saturday, so it is not a Friday through Sunday weekend series, of course, with the Big 12 tournament looming. First two at 5:30 local time on Thursday and Friday, Saturday at noon, all three games. Tim Healy and Max Roster will be there in Houston on the Sun Devil Radio Network. Coach, one more of these next week. That'll be back at Blanco for our final show before the conference tournament. And wish you the best of luck, obviously, going into Houston this weekend. And let's close it out strong and move into a Big 12 tournament play next week.
That's the plan. So we'll take Thursday as it is, and we'll go try to win that one and go from there. But, yeah, I really appreciate it. We're looking to close out the regular season, hopefully on a high note.
We'll talk to you next week for our last edition of Dugout Chatter.